for your land for South Australia. All the way you're rolling King, all the way you'll hear me sing, down for South Australia.
Gonna start. There we are. So here we are again. Another episode of Oh the Tales We Tell, our podcast, promoting and hopefully expanding the Cornish Creative Network by talking to the lovely people that make it what it is. I'm joined today by Felicity Tattersall. Hello, Felicity. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's great to have you here. And yeah, the podcast is just here to get all of our lovely listeners to know a little bit more about you as a creative in the county. So Felicity, why don't you introduce yourself just quickly so that everybody knows who you are?
Sure. So I've lived in Cornwall, I think it's about 11 years now, and I guess I'd describe myself as an author illustrator. So I do illustrations for a kind of variety of museum and kind of heritage based clients, which I love because museums are my background, as James said.
Yeah.
But I would say my kind of main passion is for children's books, and obviously I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. Yeah. But I also run kind of creative workshops and do creative projects across Cornwall.
Super. So the question that I've been kind of introducing our episodes with, just because I think it's quite nice, because the world is still very much virtual at the moment. So obviously we tend to have quite a few meetings. So if we were meeting today in person, where would we be and what would we be up to?
Well, I think in an ideal world, my ideal place would always be in a Cornish garden. I absolutely love the gardens of Cornwall. I think we're so lucky in the kind of diversity of plants and trees that we have here. So we'd probably be sketching, walking around a garden, chatting away, having a cup of tea.
Sounds wonderful.
Drawing botanicals with the sun on our faces.
Oh, that sounds absolutely amazing. So much better than being stuck behind a screen.
Yeah.
So you touched on it a bit briefly in your introduction there, but do tell us a little bit more about your work illustrating storytelling, and rather excitingly, you have a new book out. So could you tell us a little bit about where the inspirations come for that story?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it was when my first child was born. I suddenly woke up about 3 weeks afterwards and thought, I really, really want to write and illustrate children's books. I mean, I think even as a child, lots of us, would sit and make little books. I remember doing that, little tiny books and writing in them and drawing in them. And I was sort of obsessed with the idea of books and how word and image interact and interplay. But as I say, going back a few years, that was the point. I thought, I really want to do this, and I'd obviously strap my baby in the, in the carrier and trug off round parks and gardens and things, and I just suddenly became completely fascinated by these spaces. And there's so many kind of sculptural plants and things in Cornwall, and they were quite exciting. And obviously as my son got older, we'd start to see animals in the gardens and spot them and talk about that, and they start to develop these characters. So the idea for this book, which I'll show you now, so it's called Cornish Mice and the Treasure Garden, and it really all came about from visiting gardens, and all the gardens around here, kind of Treba, Trelisic, Heligan, Eden Project, Tremonier, all the gardens we've got so have, and lots of the parks as well. And I just wanted to have a kind of adventure story. My husband said the story needs to be fast paced. So there's the premise behind it was the sun's not shining. That's how the story starts, and these mice characters have to go on a kind of adventure and a trail around the garden, which involves them going on a boat and going up in the sky and coming back down again. I won't give too much away, but to reveal the clues to make the sun shine again.
Wow.
So basically, I mean, I think I've just always been obsessed with stories, and those kind of stories that stay with you, and the stories we all get read when we're children, and they're so powerful, aren't they? And they really play on your imagination, and your parents read them to you, and then you go out and you play them out, with your toys, or you go and write your own versions of them. So I think it's such an important part of kind of the development of children, and the kind of evolution of our understanding of the world, and what's important to us. And this form of writing and illustrating just massively appeals to me. I think I've always loved both. I did a joint degree at undergraduate. I did like English and fine art. I could never decide which I wanted to do more.
So you thought you'd do both?
Well, that's it. Yes, and absolutely. And I think in a sense you get two bites of the cherry, because you get to tell the story with your words, and then you get to tell the story with your visuals, and then you often get to cut lots of words out because you can tell them visually. So
got you.
It's it's a really, really kind of great feeling if you're doing both. But equally, I have worked with writers and illustrators, and where they've done the other part, and that can be so lovely too, because that collaboration is really exciting, and you can so two heads are better than one. You get two people's amount of ideas, which is great.
Well, this is it. I mean, so the one thing that I always struggle with is the drawing aspect. I, as you know, love telling stories, and especially the theatre work. I think it's always been something that's gone slightly behind is the illustration side of things. No matter how much I kind of really practice and things like that, it always doesn't feel quite right. And yet you just stick me on a screen, or stick me on the stage, or whatever, or put me behind something that I can type out a story, and it just happens. And yet with the illustration, it's a real skill that you have to keep practicing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you could see, I've just got books of sketchbooks. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think I can't talk for anyone else, but for me, the illustrating is the harder one. It's really hard to get the image to be how I want it in my head, and I think it's almost, I don't know, it could be a life's work to become really good at drawing everything. Drawing people is a real skill. Drawing buildings, architecture, drawing plants, drawing animals. Drawing perspective, there's just so many different and challenges, I think. And that, in a sense, is what keeps it quite exciting, because you're never going to get to a point and go, I can do everything. Absolutely never. You're going to keep learning and keep noticing things. And I mean, something I notice at the moment I'm obsessed with, but when I draw, is the shape of the shadows in eyes. So if I'm drawing animals or people, the actual shape of the reflection can have this enormous impact on how the final person or animal looks. Tiny bit, but so it's the kind of minutiae, the detail
that can really change something.
Totally changes the tone of a drawing, or just how how you relate to it, where your eyes sitting.
Oh, you've given me goosebumps. No, you're completely right, and it's completely a perspective thing as well, isn't it? And it's always, I suppose, difficult to know how people respond to the work that you put out, but actually, if hopefully you're going to that level of detail, then you can really convey that little bit of the story that you're trying to tell.
Absolutely. And just anything, it could even be the shape of the shadow of your character, just the slightest tweak on the mouth, how you draw, whether that when we smile, obviously everything in our face changes, so just getting those details right can have an enormous impact on the storytelling. And obviously in a picture book, every little part contributes to the whole, so it's every little element is weighted to help you tell that story.
So you were mentioning earlier about obviously your new book. Congratulations! It sounds very, very exciting. I'll give you a chance to let people know how they can get their hands on a copy a little bit later. But So obviously, because you've got quite a few branches to your tree, in the sense of what you do, what would be your top bit of advice for a creative in the county today? And do you have any tips for maybe someone working in the arts, cultural, or heritage sector that is self-employed? Because I know that that's obviously a tricky thing in the work that we do in that sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think, and this this is just sort of from my experience, but I think being really flexible. So if I've had periods where the freelance work's been quieter, I mean, as I say, I used to work in museums. I'm quite lucky, so I go back and do museum work, which I equally love. So that's a real pleasure. But so I think being as flexible and as adaptable, and keeping a lookout for opportunities. I am looking on my phone all the time, and as soon as things come up, firing off ideas. I mean, I've generally always got a kind of project idea going around my head, and then I wait till perhaps the right funding opportunity or whatever comes up.
Sure.
But networking, I think, is so important. People knowing what you do.
Yeah.
Trying to be really clear about what it is you do as well. If you only meet people briefly, kind of having on your mind in a sentence, what's your USP? I do this, and this, rather than reeling off, 10 things, because we've all got so many skills, but if you're meeting someone briefly, it's really handy to be concise. And then we're so lucky in Cornwall. There's so many amazing organisations that I would say have been so supportive, have been incredible. Just I can't thank them enough. Like the Writer's Block, Cultivator. Obviously, I studied at Falmouth University. I've got lots of friends from my illustration course who are so supportive, and just the creative community. Feast are amazing. Connecting with, like yourself, with other creative people are incredibly supportive here, and I think it's really, really special. I don't maybe think it's the same everywhere. I think we're really lucky that it's like that here.
I was just about to say that. I really think it is a unique thing about the county, isn't it? The creative network is just so big. It's so welcoming to new ideas and new people, and it's so easy to get yourself into the network, but it's almost that taking that leap first, isn't it?
Definitely.
And just taking some chances, and like you said though, but being almost concise with your ideas and things like that. But that's not to say don't think huge and then scale down. It's just
broaden,
have that kind of clear idea of what it is that you want.
If you can crystallize it, if that's possible, to what really interests you, what really matters to you. Because I mean, someone said to me once on my school one, but if you keep putting out what you really want to do, it will kind of come back eventually. It will get mirrored back to you, and I think it's absolutely true. And also, you were just saying about putting yourself out there. I mean, the first creative project I did was with a very small volunteer-run museum. I went with an idea, and I always say, they said yes when they could easily have said no. I had no track record. There's no reason for them to go, let's do it. But they did. They were like, come on. And then I was very fortunate to be supported by Cornwall Museums Partnership, who are another one that have been immensely supportive towards me and kind of creative projects. And then that's it. You go for it and suddenly go, it's happening.
Exactly.
And I think that's the same for everyone,
And then suddenly, you're joining Helen and Jack on a cup of tea on a Wednesday via Zoom, just meeting all of these amazing, wonderful, creative people who are talking about everything and anything that's just going on.
Definitely.
It's just, it's so exciting. And I know that you've already kind of touched on this a little bit, but so obviously with the creative work, what is it that you love most about it, and why, I suppose, do you love your mode of storytelling as opposed to others?
I mean, I guess that for that question it is, I love feeling like I'm helping audiences to see things in a different way, giving them a different perspective that they've maybe never thought about.
Totally.
I think that's like an absolute foundation. And I think with illustration, the illustration side, it just comes from this absolute love, this absolute passion making work, and just trying to, as I say, there's the challenge of it for me is, you're constantly trying to improve those, improve your ways of conveying kind of a narrative and telling that story in a better way. And there's so many elements to that, what color palette do you use, what's your composition, just there's so many elements you can kind of think about. So there's that, but then I find the writing's completely separate. I've actually just done a short picture book writing course with an organisation called Write Mentor. I've just finished just a short course, but it was incredible, and they really broke down, because most picture books maybe only have 500 words. It's a very small word limit, and really broke down how to structure that and how to get the most out of each of your spreads and what should be happening here and how your characters have to have an arc. And it was amazing, because I've been writing children's books for several years, working on them, but there's always so much to learn, and how to really think about making like every single word count, and really
of course,
to that, that kind of key idea that you're trying to get across.
And then I love that obviously you were saying that actually in a way you can kind of save on some of those word counts, because you have the pictures and you have the illustrations to tell another bit of the story for you. Exactly. That's just amazing. I love the way that work is created. It really fascinates me. It's like, I have musician friends. I can't play an instrument to save my life, but it fascinates me when they talk about music and the way that they just create it. And I think it's just incredible to hear how these illustrations are then put together, and the attention to detail that goes into them. And I love it. And I'm sure our lovely listeners will be loving it as well. And it's certainly different, because obviously it's great that we have all of these different backgrounds in this creative network. That's why I really wanted to talk to you today, because we haven't had an artist in that sense on with us, and talking us through that process has just been wonderful. I suppose one of the other questions I've got for you, as we go more towards the end now, is what is it that you're looking most forward to now that Cornwall, its engines have revved back up? What is it that you're most looking forward to in Cornwall this year?
Well, I was so excited today. I got an email from the writer's block to say the Speakeasy, which is the writers sharing session that used to run about monthly, and I loved going to, and they're actually next week having a in-person one, which it may be outside, but it's just I don't know, I was like, woohoo, it's so exciting to hear people can actually get together, because whilst digital is great, you are losing the chance for those more casual conversations that actually can be incredibly important, those kind of just chats. And so that was wonderful. But I think just hopefully going back into the theatre, I love any kind of performances. We managed a bit over Christmas before the lockdown, obviously in January, but festivals. I mean, I think I've signed up to I'm doing a kind of meet the author event at the Big Read. It's a festival, a children's book festival in September I think it's at Gwellan Tops. So that's amazing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thing to be able to do that, and
that's so exciting.
I'll be doing a reading from Cornish Mice and Treasure Garden, and a craft activity. So but, all those kind of live events where performance and dialogue and conversation are kind of the heart of it. That's what we've probably all really missed the most, isn't it?
And it's that buzz, isn't it? It's that lovely, it's not just sitting behind it, being able to see people and see people's actual reactions to things.
Definitely.
That's so exciting. I'm good luck. It's going to be great. Tell us where we can get the book. So
I probably should have said the book's published by Tormark, so you can buy it from their website. You can also buy it from Amazon and order it through any good bookshop. So
that's so exciting. Felicity, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm sure our listeners will be delighted to hear all about your exciting work. Do keep up to date with Felicity's work. You can follow her on social media, can't you, through your Facebook page?
Yeah, that's right.
And you have your website as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So all of the information will be in the description for this episode. But also, I suppose if you want to get in touch with her, then please do. If you've got some exciting work coming up, or just want to chat about the illustration that you do, because I know that you've held quite a few workshops in the past.
I'm about to do one
really great
next week, actually. No, sorry, not next, in July. I'm doing one at the Newlyn Art Gallery in Penzance, so it's working with them. It's a botanicals workshop in the parks in Penzance, which I'm really looking forward to. That one should be great.
That is going to be really good. Well, Felicity, thank you again, and hopefully next time we have our proper meeting, we can go for that walk with the fairies down in the Coosby. And maybe get some more ideas for some exciting stories that we can tell.
Definitely. Sounds great.
We will see you next time. Thank you so much, Felicity. And thanks again.
Thank you.